Good afternoon. We're on to section 1H, Algebra Properties. This section has quite a bit of writing, so I encourage you to go ahead and pause and write down the information. Press play when you're ready to go on. So the first property you'll see here is the distributive property. It says to multiply a sum. Now remember, a sum is an addition problem. By a number, multiply each addend of the sum by the number outside the parentheses. Now an addend is what you are adding together. So if you look down at this example, our sum is 4 plus 6. The addends are 4 and 6. And we're going to multiply each addend of the sum by the number outside the parentheses. So the 3 is outside. So I'm going to distribute the 3 to both the 4 and the 6. So 3 to the 4, that's where I get 3 times 4, plus, so I'm bringing out that plus sign, so I'm still using some addition. Now I'm going to distribute the 3 to the 6. I have 3 times 6. This is the first step in using the distributive property. All right, now if I'm going to solve it, I would do 3 times 4, which is 12, plus 3 times 6, which is 18. 12 plus 18 is 30. Now you'll notice I get the same answer. 4 plus 6 is 10. 3 times 10 is also 30. That's the whole point. Now the purpose of using distributive property makes a lot more sense once we get into a lot more algebra. And that's how you would solve these algebraic properties using the distributive property. But we want to make sure you understand that distributive property works when it's not algebraic as well. Our next property is the commutative property. And that's saying the order in which two numbers are added or multiplied, it works for both, does not change their sum or product. Please notice it only works for addition and multiplication. And what it's saying is that the order in which you add these numbers is not going to change the solution. So 5 plus 7 is going to give you the same answer as 7 plus 5. Same as 2 times 4 will give you the same answer as 4 times 2. If you think of the word commute, it's when you're moving, it's when you're commuting to school. So what the numbers are doing is they're moving around, they're changing places. Okay, that's a commutative property. The associative property says the way in which three numbers are grouped. And when we're talking about grouping, we're talking about parentheses. When they are added or multiplied does not change their answer. It sounds very familiar to commutative property, but now what's changing, excuse me there, now what's changing is the parentheses are moving. So if you look at the order, 2 plus 4 plus 5, that is the same thing I have here, 2 plus 4 plus 5, but the parentheses have changed places. They're not around the 4 and the 5 anymore. Now they're on the 2 and the 4. So what's really moving is the grouping symbols. So make sure you note numbers do not move. Okay? Whereas in the commutative property, that is what's moving. The numbers are moving. Your identity properties here says the sum of an addend and 0 is the addend, so any number plus 0 is 7. And the product of a factor and 1 is the factor, so it's 9. Okay, these are what we call kind of the duh properties. Everyone knows any number plus 0 is that number, and everyone knows any number times 1 is itself. Those are our identity properties. So what we're going to do is you're going to use first start off with using the distributive property to rewrite each expression. Now we're just rewriting the expression to begin with. Then you evaluate. So this is a two-part problem. I take the number on the outside of the parentheses and I distribute it. So I get 7 times 4 plus, because it's addition, okay, 7 times 3. So that's the first part. That's rewriting the expression. Now I'm going to solve it. So 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 3 is 21. When I add those together, I get 49, and that's my solution. Okay, so this is part 1, part 2. Now for this one, it's already broken up into its distributive properties. So when I use the distributive property, I'm going to show that I'm taking that 3 and I'm multiplying it by both the addends. So my addends are 9 and 6. I'm going to put 9 plus 6. And I'm going to go ahead and put 3 on the outside. And you can check it. With the distributive property, it would be 3 times 9, that's what I have, plus 3 times 6. So I know I did it correctly. Then we're going to solve. So 9 plus 6 is 15. And 3 times 15 is 45. Okay, so once again, this is part 1 and part 2 of our solutions. Now we're going to name the property, and when you do this, you're going to need to look back in your notes and look at the properties. It's either going to be associative, commutative, identity properties, or the distributive property. So looking at this one, you'll notice I have a 6, 5a. Then it's 6, 5a. So the order is not changing. What's changing is the parentheses. So this is going to be the associative property. Okay, and we can abbreviate these. And it's the associative property of addition. Okay, it's either going to be addition or multiplication. So associative property of addition. Now for part D, I have a multiplication problem. And what's changing? Well, the order of these numbers is changing. So it's the same problem, but the numbers are switched, and we know when the numbers move, it's the commutative property. And this time, it's not going to be of addition, it's going to be of multiplication, because it's multiplication in this particular problem. Okay, go on to the next set here. Now, I have a variable here, but this is saying 0 plus t equals t. Now, I'm not moving any numbers order. Okay, it's not the same numbers on both sides. I have no parentheses. So if you remember, this is actually an identity property. And it's the identity property of addition. Oops. Because I am showing that I added 0. Okay, down here, it's the same type of thing. I get 225 times 1 equals 225. So it's an identity property, but this time it's of multiplication. Property of multiplication. Okay. One more set here. It says use one or more properties to rewrite each expression as an equivalent expression that does not use parentheses. So what you're doing here is you're trying to figure out what can I do to simplify this expression. So for part A, I have b plus 3 in parentheses, and then plus 6. Well, I know I cannot combine b plus 3. I'm not allowed to. Okay? But by the associative property, I can move my parentheses. So I can rewrite this as b plus 3 plus 6. And then can I do 3 plus 6? Well, absolutely. So I can rewrite this as b plus 9. Since I do not know what b is, I cannot solve it. So this is my expression. Okay, the next one, it has a multiplication and addition. So this cannot be the associative property. It has to be the distributive property. So I can rewrite this by taking the 4 and distributing it to the a and to the 7. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4 times a, this is my equal sign, plus 4 times 7. And I'm going to, once again, simplify if I can. I don't know what 4a is, so I'm going to keep that alone. But I know 4 times 7 is 28. So this is my simplified expression. Remember, you cannot solve expressions, so I'm leaving these alone. Okay, I'm not going to put 9 times b or 9b because this is addition. I'm not going to combine these together because I don't know what a is. All right, so these are my solutions. Well, hopefully that helps you. Remember that tomorrow in class you can ask any questions that you have. If you show me your notes, then you can begin your homework in class as well. Hope you have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow.